Hey there everypony, and welcome to another Applepip Reviews. And today, as you can see, we are reviewing the Platinum demo of the Final Fantasy game. And what can I say about this game initially? The gameplay you're going to be seeing is actually my third attempt at playing through the demo. I mean, I wouldn't say the demo is hard, and it's actually quite immersive. I mean, the graphics is well done. It's reminiscent of what you would expect a Final Fantasy game to be. However, when it comes to Final Fantasy games, everyone always technically knows that it's a turn-based strategy. It goes, and I'll just pause here a second while this CG plays. See, and as you can see in this bit, you can see the graphics are very well done. The CG is always spectacular, as you know they can do. And I have to admit, I was actually quite impressed with this. I mean, the lighting, the shadowing, it's what you would expect from a Final Fantasy game. I have to admit, at this point, I actually kind of liked the carbuncle little creature.
Hey, wait!
I thought that was a nice little addition. Right. Now, when I started to play this for the first time, I found it to be quite an interesting concept, because when you think about it, the combat for Final Fantasy has always been you run around an area, you find an enemy, it goes into a battle scene, and then it starts all the turn-based combat. However, this game I actually found to be difficult. I mean, it's kind of like Metal Gear Rising, when you had the kind of hack and slash base gameplay where you came against a group of enemies, you used various abilities, and then you basically dispatch them by hacking them to pieces. This game is kind of reminiscent of Metal Gear Rising in its hack and slash capability. I mean, you lock onto an enemy, you have various weapons. Because I know this is a demo and they've still got fine-tuning to do, considering this game is not out until next October. However, I still don't think the hack and slash combat was actually the right way for them to actually go into this game, because it's... how do I put this? It just doesn't feel like Final Fantasy anymore. It just doesn't feel like the turn-based combat that you can actually have. I mean, and here you go in this scene here, I'm equipping all the weapons, and you see how it's the target an enemy, you lock onto an enemy, which the lock-on is actually kind of buggy at this point. And now, if you saw there, when the enemy attacked me, I dodged out of the way to attack, but yet the enemy still managed to hit me even though I had dodged it. Now, for a Final Fantasy game, I thought at that point that the game was actually kind of a little bit sluggish. I mean, I know you're playing a kid, and I know you're playing with toy weapons and all in the demo and stuff and all like this, but I found the combat it was stiff. It wasn't as firing on all cylinders, if you know what I mean. And this bit there, when I went up to that bit of a level, I had to wait for the carbuncle creature to actually go up and touch that area before I could actually get into the ring. Now, I found that was actually quite annoying in some sense of the word, where it actually kind of slowed down the transitioning between all the levels. But it's not bad. I mean, the game itself, it flows pretty well, but there's little pieces of it that just slows it down. You know, it slows it down to a point where it actually ruins the flow. I mean, a Final Fantasy game, I mean, I've played every single Final Fantasy from Final Fantasy 7 onwards, so I wouldn't say I'm the most expert on Final Fantasy games, but I've played enough to know how the Final Fantasy games work. And out of all the Final Fantasy games that have pretty much come out, I still prefer Final Fantasy VIII. I think Final Fantasy VIII, was the greatest in terms of the Final Fantasies. I thought the combat was good, the inclusion of the ability to actually capture creatures to use in the card game and all that was built into the game, and I actually found that was very good. But this game, even though it's only a beta, I hope that they fine-tune it a hell of a lot, because it's still not giving you the atmosphere that you expect a Final Fantasy game to be, and yet the demo is acting as kind of like a massive tutorial, basically telling you how to play the game, what everything does. Yet at the start, as you notice, there's these yellow, I don't know, things that you collect, yet it doesn't actually explain what those yellow things are. Like, right at the start, the creature did not say, these floaty points of light, you know, are your spirit, or, you know, an otherworld currency, or whatever. You know, it doesn't actually explain what they are. So, as you're going along, all you're doing is pretty much collecting them, but for what purpose, the game doesn't actually tell you. Now, it may probably tell you later on in the game, or at the end, you know, at the end of the tutorial or something like that, but I never really got to the end. I got to just the top of the box where you exit, and then that was pretty much it for me, and I haven't really played the demo again. I've got the gist of what it could be, but what I have to say at this point is that the game still has a lot of fine-tuning left to do, and I hope they do fine-tune it, because it could turn out to be a really, really fun game. But it just seems that the combat is a little sluggish. The targeting system can be a little pissy sometimes. I won't properly lock on to an enemy even after you do it, and then you don't even press the right analog stick to switch to an enemy, and like you saw there, the targeting system, and there, I never actually pressed the targeting system at those points, and the game seemed to automatically switch to another enemy, even if the previous one I was targeting wasn't actually dead yet. He goes, now, I take out all these enemies quickly, but like I said before, the combat is a little bit sluggish. It just doesn't have the immersion that I expected it to have. I mean, if you look at the previous trailers for this game, the combat seems to be far more interactive. You know, you could do multiple abilities, you could switch between weapons on the fly, do all these brilliant animations. So, to sum up before this video ends, the game's not bad, combat is a little sluggish, and I really do hope by the time it comes out that they actually fix it. Now, so this is the end of my review of Final Fantasy 15, and I hope I'll catch all you guys later.